Let us bow our heads and pray. Heavenly Father, you have said in your word that many are the plans of men, but it is the counsel of the Lord that will stand. We thank you, Lord, that you have spoken in our nation today. It is our prayer that as you have commanded us, that it is you that establishes leaders, that you will pour out your mercy and your grace on all of us as a nation, on our leaders. We thank you, Father, for this time where we declare what you have spoken. We ask, Lord, that your presence be with us. May the words of our mouths and the meditation of all our hearts be pleasing and acceptable to you. O Lord, you are our strength.
Can we see you? Can we see you and wave? Please be on your feet. Be on your feet for Ghanaians to applaud you for the wonderful work that you've done. Thank you. Now I go to the commission members. Here with us is Commission Member Professor Peter Apiahene. Also here at the high table, we have Commission Member Hajia Salima Sani Muhammad. The one who said the prayer is a commission. Thank you. I'm told the EU ambassador to Ghana is also here. And the director of USAID is also here. I'd like to introduce another commission member, Ms. Ajua Isiama Abrefa. And now I go to the executive commissioners. Ajua Isiama Abrefa. And now I go to the executive commissioners. At the high table, we have Deputy Chair in charge of Corporate Service, Dr. Bosman Eric Asare. Deputy Chair in charge of Operations, Mr. Samuel Tete, is also here with us. And the chairperson, the returning officer, Mrs. Jane Adukwe-Mensah, is here. In addition, I would like to acknowledge some few people here. Reps of the National Peace Council, representative of domestic observer groups. I can see Mr. Ayin here, the national coordinator of CODIO, reps of other international observers, members of both local and international press and media houses. Shall we see your hands? The local and international press houses with us. And last but not the least, I would like to acknowledge the supporting staff, members of the security services, as well as the members of the ambulance services that were able to come on short call. Thank you very much for coming. And now, the reason why we are here. I have the singular honor to cede the podium or the mic to the chairperson of the Electoral Commission and the returning officer for the presidential elections, Madame Jane Mensah.
Should I go to the podium? Let us go to the podium. A good evening to all of you, our distinguished guests. To God be all the glory, great things he has done, and greater things he will do. We thank the good Lord for making it possible for us to witness this day. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been 48 hours since the close of polls on Saturday, the 7th of December, 2024. The voters of Ghana have spoken. They have expressed their choice at the polls, and that choice will today be upheld by the Electoral Commission of Ghana. As a commission, we have fulfilled our vowed aspiration to imbibe transparency, accountability, inclusiveness, and responsiveness at the heart of all our operations. And I can confidently say that with the help of God, we have fulfilled these aspirations and the expectations of the citizenry. We have conducted elections that are credible, fair, transparent, and peaceful. Elections that have ensured that the will of the people as expressed at the polls, the elections that have guaranteed that every vote counts. As a country, we take pride in the fact that our electoral processes, initiated since 1992, uphold and guarantee the voter's choice. We take pride in the fact that the voter's choice, as expressed at the polls, is sacrosanct. Ladies and gentlemen, the last 4 years have been spent in injecting and infusing 4 key elements into every aspect of our work. And those elements are transparency, accountability, responsiveness, and inclusiveness. As such, we started the year poised and ready to conduct credible elections. We were conscious that elections were an event and not a process. This resolve led us to undertake several transformational decisions, including the re-exhibiting of the Provisional Voters Register for the first time in our history, when concerns were raised about its credibility, as well as opening up the IPAC meetings to the citizenry by allowing the live coverage of all IPAC meetings. Indeed, the decisions to re-exhibit the Provisional Voters Register to allow a further review by political parties and the citizenry, as well as the demystification of the IPAC meeting, has helped diffuse the tensions that were brewing around the Provisional Voters Register. Ultimately, those 2 decisions restored the confidence of the citizens in the Voters Register and cemented Ghana's peace. Again, in the spirit of responsiveness, when complaints were made about the 50 persons charged voters for the verification of their registration details online, the Commission waived the fee and allowed voters to verify their details at no cost. In line with our determination to ensure the credibility of the 2024 election, when the Commission received information of the leak of a single defaced ballot paper, the Commission acted swiftly and destroyed ballots for both Western and Eastern regions. This bold determination and this bold decision was based on our determination to uphold the integrity of the election at all costs. In less than 1 week, the Commission printed new ballot papers for both regions and went on to successfully hold the special voting 2 days ahead of the main election. As a commission, our singular message to our teams at all levels has been clear. It is that our mandate is not to make anyone a president or a member of parliament, but rather to conduct and undertake credible and transparent elections and electoral processes which uphold the voters' choice and lead to acceptable and peaceful electoral outcomes. Today, our resolve has paid off. We have conducted elections that are fair, elections that are free, elections that are credible, elections that are transparent, elections that are peaceful, and elections whose outcomes are acceptable by all. So transparent are our processes that any interested political party, media house, or citizen could collate with near precision the results of the election, attesting to the resilient and robust processes built over the years. And we witnessed this with the concession of the Vice President, even before the declaration of the results by the Electoral Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, the testimonies on Election Day also attest to the efficient, robust, and resilient processes we put in place. Many citizens testified to the seamless processes they witnessed at the polling stations. The average time spent at the polling station was around 5 minutes compared to several hours and several minutes prior to the 2020 election. Citizens also attested to the efficiency of the biometric voter devices, the biometric verification devices employed to ensure that every man has one vote. The system worked efficiently and ensured that the voter who registered was indeed the person who voted. We are confident that the 2024 election will further cement trust in our electoral processes and reduce the suspicions that typically characterize elections on the continent. At this juncture, I would like to thank all of you who journeyed with us to ensure the success of the 2024 election. To our staff, both permanent and temporary, we say, Ayiko, you have worked hard, put in long hours, plowed the field, and done the spade work at the risk of your own lives to bring us a successful outcome. Our hearts go out to our staff who were manhandled during this time. We wish you well, and we ask the good Lord to bless all of you. To our media partners who have journeyed with us and enabled us to bring the commission to the doorstep of every Ghanaian, we say thank you. To the Ghana Police Service and to our partner, the National Peace Council, we say Ayiko. We thank all of you, the good citizens of Ghana, who have believed in us and allowed us to serve you. To our dear families and friends who have journeyed with us every step of the way, we thank you for your support, your prayers, your encouragement, and your advice. We are conscious that we could not have achieved this success without the help of the Almighty God, our anchor, without whom we could have done nothing. We remain eternally grateful, and I say thank you, Jesus. To all our observers from the ECOWAS, from the African Union, from the ECONEC, from the Commonwealth Secretariat, from the West Africa Elders Forum, supported by the Goodluck Jonathan Foundation, from the National Peace Council, from CODEO, from the Association of African Election Authorities, from the European Center for Election Systems, from International IDEA, Frimpong Manso Institute, IDEG, and to electoral commissioners from election management bodies in Africa, namely Uganda, Gambia, Kenya, Liberia. We say thank you for your support. we wish you all Godspeed back home. As the returning officer for the presidential election and in fulfillment of my mandate as enshrined in law, I will now declare the outcome of the 2024 election. It is important to note that per Regulation 63(3) of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, the winner of the presidential election must obtain at least 50% plus 1 at the polls to be declared the winner of the election. We have collated the presidential results from all 16 administrative regions, of which 267 of the 276 constituencies have been captured. We have not been able to receive results from 9 constituencies because our offices have been besieged by political party supporters, making it impossible to complete the collation process. That notwithstanding, the presidential results from the 267 constituencies, including the newly created Guan constituency, clearly established the winner of the 2024 presidential election. Simply put, even if all the votes from the 9 constituencies were added to the candidate who placed second, it will not change the outcome of the election. It is important to note that the Commission will update the records on receipt of the presidential results from the 9 outstanding constituencies. Ladies and gentlemen, now to the results of the 2024 presidential election. And the results will be announced based on the positions of the presidential candidates on the ballot. Mahamadou Bawumia of the NPP obtained 4,657,304, being 41.61%. Daniel Augustus Latte Jr. of the GCPP obtained 16,673, being 0.15%. Christian Kwabena Andrews of the Ghana Union Movement obtained 16,461, being 0.15%. Kofi Apalu of the LPG obtained 5,219, being 0.09%. Mohamed Frimpong of the National Democratic Party obtained 4,413, being 0.04%. Nana Akosua Frimpong of the CPP obtained 23,397, being 0.21%. Mr. John Dramani Mahama of the NDC.
Meet the Ninja Turtles in Hero Wars. The legendary RPG Hero Wars welcomes new heroes to the battlefield.
397. And I'd like to repeat that. Mr. John Dramani Mahama of the NDC obtained 6,328,397, being 56.55%. Mr. Hassan Ayariga of the APC obtained 17,461, being 0.16%. Mr. Kofi 461, being 0.16%. Mr. Kofi Kranting, independent candidate, obtained 3,320, being 0.03%. Mr. George Chumberima Edu, independent candidate, obtained 3,091, being 0.02%. Nana Kwame Biediaku, independent candidate, obtained 84,478, being 0.05%. Mr. Alan Kojo Tremanting, independent candidate, obtained 31,202, being 0.28%. The total valid votes cast add up to 11,191,422. Total rejected votes, 239,109. Total votes cast, 11,430,531. It's important to mention that the total registered voters add up to 18,774,159. And the percentage voter turnout based on the 267 constituencies stands at 60.9%. 60.9% based on the 267 constituencies. And as I mentioned, this does not include the 9 constituencies whose results we are yet to receive. Ladies and gentlemen, as mentioned earlier, results from the 9 constituencies are still as outstanding. The 9 constituencies are Ewutu Senya East, in Sawam, Aduajiri, Akwetia, Suhum, Techiman South, Domi Kwabenya, Ablekuba North, Ahafo Anon North, and Damango. The total registered voters in all 9 constituencies add up to 947,116. In the event that all the valid voters from the 9 constituencies above voted for the candidate who placed second, the total number of votes he would garner would be 5,604,420, representing 46.17% of the total valid votes, which would have been 12,138,538. The inclusion of the outstanding constituencies would have given the leading candidate 52.13%, which is still greater than the 50% plus 1 required to be declared a winner. And so even with that scenario, he's clearly the winner of the 2024 election. In the light of the above, ladies and gentlemen, I have the singular honor as the returning officer of the 2024 presidential election to declare His Excellency John Dramani Mahama as the winner of the 2024 presidential election and the President-elect of the Republic of Ghana with a total percentage of 56.55%. Congratulations, sir. It is finished. Thank you very much.
So that there in your short, John Dramani Mahama is now officially president-elect because the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, the returning officer for the presidential election, has just declared him the winner of the presidential elections. And he comes in with 6,328,397. And that is 6,328,397. That is representing 56.55% there. And then you have Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia coming in with 4,657,304. And that is just 41.61%. The turnout, though, is 60.9%. And gentlemen, we need to compare to the previous low turnouts we've had for 2008 and 2016, where we had low turnouts, including 2000. We had low turnouts in 2000, low turnouts in 2008, low turnouts in 2016. Let's compare and let's just put it in context. But that is what we have here. And the difference as we speak tonight, and remember this result, this final result here is minus 9 constituencies yet to come in. And the EC chairperson says it's because party supporters had besieged the collation centers, and that is what is holding that up. But the picture you see here, the difference between John Dramani Mahama and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is 1.6 million votes.
That's outstanding. That is unthinkable. And I'm looking at the figures. When Jerry Rawlings got 58% in the year 1992, he didn't get this much difference.
No.
In fact, in the subsequent 1996 year, he didn't get this much difference. Even though the percentage was higher, he didn't get this much difference. So I'm looking through the figures and still trying to recall a single electioneering period since 1992 where we've had a difference of 1.6 million Ghanaians voting for the NDC, because we just had a conversation earlier that what makes our elections a bit more of the problematic end is that it's always close. The difference is not that huge. And in 2016, when we're talking about 1 million or 900,000, some said it was unthinkable. This is almost doubling that number. But I'm also looking at something else that's also getting my attention all through. That's making this particular victory quite pronounced. And it's to do with the Evans Mensah percentages involved. Going back to the years. Yes, Rawlings did 58, 57, 1992, 1996. But we discount those years because we know why. Since that period, it was during John Kufuor's runoff. That's not the main election, but runoff of 2000, that 56.90 is higher than this one. But we can discount a runoff. So if you take it out, there is no single year that we've had an election in the Republic of Ghana of this magnitude, in a presidential election, where anybody, and forget about the outstanding 9, anybody has gotten anywhere near the 56.55. That is how outstanding this. In fact, if we're wrapping up this, as is approximating it, we'll be discussing 57 percentage points. Here, this is very huge. No wonder it's reflecting in the almost 1.6 million.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not almost. More than 1.6
million. With still 9 constituencies outstanding. If you are NDC today, you'll be elated. But you'll also be thinking, what exactly did we do to warrant this? This is legitimacy at the highest level. This is a total declaration of the people that we don't want one, and you are the one that we want in this instance. Again, you mentioned the turnout and the differences in there. When Rawlings was making those huge numbers, the turnout was quite low. In fact, it was around the same percentage in this case, even in the year 2000. But I am still shocked by the 56%. In fact, if we put the rest together and it goes higher than this 56% and inches towards 57%, it will be a resounding victory. Many would have thought that as democracy advances, people don't give these resounding victories to people because they do believe that others ought to also participate in the system. But this is quite strange. A reflection of massive anger. What we have seen is that when NPP people told themselves, I'm not going to waste my time voting out in this election. There are places where the NDC's votes are slightly increased or the same, but in the case of the NPP, they've lost sometimes, say Dominic Kwabena, from 75,000 votes, when she had reduced by 10 percentage points to 50,000 votes in this election, Michael Quay got. That is 25,000 more people. I'm not even adding the fact that by elections we increase in numbers for the next election and that 80 million people registered for this one. I'm saying 25,000 Ghanaians.
Well, I mean, Raymond, in fact, in that constituency, Akufo-Addo got 78,000.
Imagine.
That was even more than that.
More than that.
Yeah.
See, almost 30,000 people in Dominic Kwabena said, I don't care about your election. I'm not participating in it. That should be a worry to many of us in this country. It's a damning verdict on our democracy, but it also shows that this 56.55 is a resounding victory that, regardless of how you look at it, is a massive endorsement of John Dramani Mahama and a signal to the NPP. And I'm not just saying this is all about President Akufo-Addo. There is something to be said about how Bawumia only garnered 41%. That is an extremely low for an NPP candidate in presidential elections of this
Especially when our analysis have said that when NPP wins election, they tend to win it by a huge margin.
A huge margin.
Compared to the NDC.
Indeed, if you take our Rawlings, this is the biggest showing that the NDC has ever made.
And Prof, if you put it in context, whilst Raymond makes the point about this is the biggest showing, 2016, JM was also, in terms of the margin of defeat, had managed to claw in an unwanted record, which is the guy with the biggest margin of defeat. He has flipped it completely on its head over 2 terms of the Akufo-Addo MPP administration. There's a lot to be said about this comeback. If you ever thought, and this is just talking generally about life, if you ever thought that life was over for you, JM tells you that sometimes you can't make a comeback.
And
you
Evans,
did not just come back, you can come back big time.
If you look at the years that you have mentioned that we've had low voter turnout, 2000, 2008, 2016, 2024, they have all been the completion of the second term of an incumbent government. And those periods have always been our turnover periods. So if you look at 2000, there was our first turnover, 2008, second turnover, then 2016, and then now 2024. And basically, it speaks to a whole lot of things that people usually get fed up with the performance or the track record of the incumbent in their second term, but also it has to do with the kind of campaign that you also put up. Even if people are fed up with the incumbent government and you do not campaign well based on policies and have a superior strategy, it becomes very difficult. In 2016, we were saying 2016 was the first turnover in our third turnover that we didn't go runoff. And we said Akufo-Addo won with close to a million.
Close to a million votes.
Difference. Now, JM has spoiled the record at all. Because he is also winning first round with 1.6, even minus 9 constituencies. And the number of parliamentary seats is overwhelming. So I think this is a complete destruction of the MPP and the MPP campaign machinery. And I think it will take them several years to recover. But what it also means is that the NDC also have to be very careful, because when you are given this kind of overwhelming mandate, a lot of expectations is required.
And you make such an important point, because I go back, you always need to go back to the history to learn a bit more about what is happening now. When Nana Addo won the 2016 elections, the expectation was in the stratosphere. He had gotten this overwhelming mandate, and everybody was looking forward to something magical. And when you raise people's expectations and they give you this mandate, you also expect a lot. To whom much is given, much is expected. The key question then becomes, and there's something about John Dramani. I want to go live to the Electoral Commission's headquarters now, because my colleagues are having an exclusive conversation with Madame Jean Mensah.
Conduct even more transparent elections. We go back to review our systems, our processes, to look at the lessons learned, to look at what worked well, what didn't work well, because it's a whole process, and it starts, as you know, from the registration exercise of voters. And so we're looking at, the whole chain to see what we can do better, and to ensure that we continue to deliver elections that uphold the will of the people as expressed at the polls.
And you will assist other African countries in doing so?
I'll be very happy to do that. I'll be very happy to do that. Thank you very much.
My last one,
You mentioned that you're looking forward to improving the processes even more, and there'll be time to talk about that. There'll be time to talk about what went wrong and the challenges this year, and how do you make it better and improve on it for the next elections. We've always done that as a country, and that's what makes our democracy strong. But coming back to a point I was making, and Prof, I'm staying with you on this. You watched JM's body language when we went there for that live shot of him seated. He was very calm. Even after the declaration, everybody was all about him. The wife was trying to drag his hand. There was a sense that you get, just read his body language. And because I've been there before, this is, he feels a sense of responsibility more than a sense of jubilation.
Yeah. So generally, he's a humble character. And even when he's when he wins overwhelmingly an election, maybe he will still have to be humble. But largely because of what you've mentioned. He's been there. He's been one thing you expect about him in his second term is the fact that all the lessons that he has learned in his last administration, he has been given an opportunity to right the wrongs and to set a legacy. Unlike other presidents, you finish your term, you go and say, oh, if I had the opportunity, I would have done A, B, C, D. But in his case, he has been in government, he has been in opposition, and he has been given another mandate. So he has a lot to do. So he's looking at deeply what Ghanaians are expecting from him. And I tell you, Evans, if you look at the kind of economy and the challenges Ghanaians are going to, the expectations are so high. And maybe that's why he's looking at how he's going to start. And also, he's inheriting an economy that will not be able to support the expectations. The challenges that the economy, the state of everything now is in a complete mess. So how is he going to reconcile the level of expectations and the state of economy that is left to him? So I think basically when he's looking at all these things, he will be very humble in celebration and see how he can not only set record and do the right things, but also create an opportunity for his party to continue. And remember in 2016, it was the same thing. He was finishing, actually his party was doing 2 terms, and he was doing his first term. And because of the two term differences, they didn't give him the opportunity to continue. In this case, he's doing 1 term, and his party at most will have to do 2 terms. So that's also another break. So there's a lot that is going through his mind right now. And I think that is what is humbling him, rather than he's waiting and making noise and then shouting.
And Winston, that is an important point, is it not? And we are awaiting his acceptance speech. We're going to be reading a lot into what he says, whether he appreciates this moment. Of course, it wouldn't have dawned on him just yet how massive this is. It would take some time. But I think one thing that will not be lost on him, knowing his own track record and the experiences he's had, is that this is a weight on his shoulder more than anything else.
You see, in a country where we make promises, election promises, without sometimes calculating how much it would cost us and where we will get the monies from, when you win an election, it dawns on you then that, whoa, I have a lot to do. Because one, in 14 days, we'll be asking John Mahama, where is the list of your cabinet ministers? In the first 120 days, we'll be asking John Mahama, where is the national dialogue you promised? This is it, and I agree that he would need some time to fix some of the problems we're faced with.
The challenge with him is he hasn't got time.
Yes.
Everybody else had first term, second term.
Yes.
He has 1.
Yes, but yes. Shows prospects, shows signs, proper signs of recovery. People will look at it and say, he's done it as part. But if within that period the economy sinks further, people will look around again and say, this is not what you promised us. And that is why I say, it's good that he's talking about a dialogue. Because one of the things we haven't done so well in this country is the participatory nature of our development. We assume that once a government...
Winston, just a second. I want to take you back there live to the EC's HQ where Dr. Mani Boama, who managed elections for the NDC, is speaking to the media.
Theft under CCTV
of biometric devices, missing devices, serious discrepancies in the electoral register, all the way to even D-Day, people still were finding it difficult to locate their names in the register. However, at a point, we decided that it is the commission that has been mandated to conduct the elections. So, whilst we put them on their toes, let's also continue to campaign. Let's put in place the checks and balances. Let's intensify our eagle eye approach so that we will be able to block all the tricks that could have been used to steal the mandate of the people. Fortunately, we were successful. One of the last interventions was our uncovering of massive ballot papers in Kwadaso in the Ashanti region. Just imagine if those ballot papers, estimated at almost 500,000, had entered the ballot boxes in Ashanti region in favor of the MPP. The MPP would have today been talking about over 1 million votes in Ashanti region as the gap between the MPP and the NDC. But thanks to our eagle eye and uncovering of that deadly illegal ballots in a home, today the gap between the MPP and the NDC in Ashanti region is 600,000 plus. The question is, what has the MPP been doing over the years in Ashanti region? It is obvious the MPP is not as popular in Ashanti region as we have always been told. Check the intervention of uncovering over 500,000 ballot papers and the precipitous drop in the votes of the MPP in Ashanti region. It tells you something has always been amiss. And we are grateful that through intel, we were able to uncover this. There are several steps to be traversed in order to enhance credibility of our electoral processes. And we believe that the commission will not go and rest and wait for another 4 years only to come back and repeat the mistakes that led us into this election. We will prefer that the Electoral Commission of Ghana immediately begins the reforms that are needed, that are necessary to deepen our democracy.
The Commission is parting itself for conducting what they describe as the most credible, free and fair and transparent elections. Is that the same vibe you are getting as you prepare to lead the country from 2025?
I prefer to state that we have been extremely vigilant. Elton, we sent over 1,300 people, into Ashanti region. We sent several others to other places that evidence demonstrated that the MPP was colluding with some members of the commission to steal. So yes, the outcome has been great for us and we've won. The question is, but for those interventions, what would have happened? Who printed the 500,000 or more ballot papers? Who printed them? You understand? As we speak, we do not know who was holding that particular ballot paper or ballot papers that led to the reprinting of the Eastern and Western region ballot papers. Do you think that if that person was NDC, the person's name would not have been put out there by now? We demand to know. And as I said, power is transient. And we believe we will know. Because until we get to the bottom of these nefarious activities, democracy will continue to be just selection. Because people clandestinely will collude with people who have been put in lawful authority and cheat citizens, steal their mandate from them. Can you imagine if we had not been ultra vigilant and the MPP had won this election, the impunity that we would have witnessed in our country, that notwithstanding the fact that the bonds of pensioners, the bonds of citizens had been taken away from them, reduced to paltry sums, you still voted for us, when actually it would have all been because of ballot stuffing. So the commission should not be patting itself on the back just because of our ultra vigilance that we showed. The EC chair, for instance, alluded to opening up IPAC to the media. Go to my Facebook page and check whether I had not requested for the opening up of that particular IPAC meeting. I had. So it was demand driven. It was not supply driven. Ask yourself, when we requested to meet the commission and we were demanding that the commission should allow the media to cover, did they do that? So instead of they taking credit for the things that they have been forced to do, we rather expect that they will have deeper introspection so that going forward, we will be able to have an electoral commission of Ghana that is truly responsive to the needs and concerns of Ghanaians. I'll give you an example. Today, we are talking about pink sheets flying around. Okay? Ask Dr. Bosman whether I did not call him and demanded that for the pink sheet that were not going to be used, the presiding officers should cross them and write cancel. Ask him whether they sent that authorization. If they had done that, do you think people, criminals, would have gotten access to those pink sheets and be using them like that? Because they refused it. Ask them. We demanded for the Excel formula that was even going to be used to calculate the final results. Ask them whether they ever produced it. So there are more issues, and I wouldn't have expected that Madam Chairperson will go praising herself or praising the commission for the thing that we have basically have to force it on them. We have a brighter future ahead of us as a people, as a determined people. We expect that going forward, the commission lives above board. Fortunately, we have President Mahama going to be sworn in on January 7. You know him. He's not somebody who is going to be influencing institutions to do his bidding. He is a Democrat par excellence. And so you can expect that institutions will begin to work. And that is why institutional reform is also very, very critical.
Just final question for me, though. You've been in government before, and I know that from today the transition teams will begin to work. What do you expect from the MPP now that they have days, weeks to leave office? What do you expect them to do before the NDC take over in January?
That the MPP will recognize the fact that there's a government in waiting. Ghanaians have demonstrated clearly that, look, they were a sham of a government. This outcome, over 1 million gap, is a repudiation of the Akufo-Addo-Bawumia MPP government. That being the case, we expect them to, if they have not finalized their handing over notes, finalize them. And in finalizing handing over notes, there is a reason this period is called a transition period. We do not expect them to be unnecessarily, incurring expenditures or signing contracts that will be binding the incoming John Dramani Mahama, Nana J. Opoku-Agyeman government. And we also expect financial institutions not to be honoring such obligations that the government will be placing on them. We expect them to ensure that we have a peaceful transition. We expect them to also ensure that just as we all stayed in the country for accountability purposes, President Mahama stayed in the country, I stayed in the country, my colleagues, we all stayed in the country for the past 8 years. And we were ready and willing to account for our stewardship. We expect them to do same. Because Operation Recover or Loot will be a reality. It will not be a mirage. There are teeming unemployed youth who came out in their numbers and voted massively for President John Dramani Mahama. They can be rest assured that a 24-hour economy will be implemented to provide them with decent, well-paying jobs. And so, hope is coming. Hope is here. Hope has been declared as the president-elect. Let's listen to the man who is coming to reset our country tonight at 7 p.m.
Doctor, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We just finished interviewing.
And that there is the Dr. Mani Bama is the Director of Elections for the NDC. Just speaking to us there about what you can expect, but also already touching on the transition process that will happen and the warnings to the incumbent government, what they can and cannot do. The reality is that the presidency remains president until the midnight of, in fact, until the swearing in, is it not, of the new president. And so that is an important point. We know that sometimes between this period, questions are what can you reasonably do if you are anticipating a new government taking over? What would you hold back from doing? But nothing stops the president from acting because he's still the commander-in-chief. There'll be time for that discussion. But let's go back to what we've heard there already. We're anticipating and expecting John Dramani Mahama to be delivering his acceptance speech. And I'm going to take a seat now as we look forward to that coming up pretty shortly. But Winston, you were speaking before we went to take this live declaration. We were analyzing John Dramani Mahama's body language and the expectations and the weight on the shoulder. He seemed to appreciate this. And I was making the point earlier that he is the only man in this country who understands what Dr. Bawumia is going through. Because and this is actually also interesting, that over time, Ghanaians keep punishing the incumbents who fail, who create economic turmoil, who then, last time, and there's something that we did a long time ago, linking IMF programs to election outcomes.
Anytime you do it in your second term, you're out.
It has a very direct correlation with that. The last time we went, it happened. And each time we had gone is worse when we were going. At this time, it went on life support. And Ghanaians consistently have said, at least now the trend shows, that if you take us to the IMF again and it happens in your second term, we're going to punish you severely. John Mahama understands this. But he knows he is going to inherit an economy still with the IMF.
Perhaps even ask for extension.
And ask for extension. And he seemed to appreciate that, at least his body language says it. But his acceptance speech must now communicate that very clearly, in very clear terms, that he appreciates what he's about to inherit.
Look, and in part of the 120 days contract with Ghanaians, he's talked about the dialogue. And I have indicated that one of the things we don't do so well in this country is, engage in participatory development, because everybody thinks that a government comes into office and the government determines, and so people have defined politics to mean, Professor Adams of GIMPA, for instance, said, winning power, then determining what people want, so they vote for you.
Determining what they want.
Exactly. That's what politicians do. They decide what you need to vote for them, and then they give it to you. This is the departure I want to see. And so Mahama is talking about having this dialogue. He did it with the Senchi. He's talking about having a dialogue, and this is in his first 120 days. The dialogue should show where we want to go as a people, what all of us are prepared to sacrifice. Because if we want to turn this thing around, we must be prepared to sacrifice. It mustn't only be the people outside the political class who sacrifice, because in this country, consistently, we have said, let's bite the bullet. While we're biting the bullet, the man who is advocating the biting of the bullet has no bullets and has no biting. So this time around, we need to
tighten the belt.
And that man who is advocating tightening of the belt
doesn't even have belt hold.
He doesn't have belt hold, so he doesn't tighten anything. Like we've stated, having been president before and having been voted against, and not seeking re-election, John Mahama has nothing to lose. This is the time to build a legacy. And I say Ghanaians should at least, let's hold on. And I'm happy Barnier talks about not being a disruptive opposition, even though he would hold government accountable. Let's offer solutions. Let us not be, the country where you go into opposition, right from day one, you are criticizing and condemning everything a government does. You must offer your support, because someday, and the evidence will show that, look, we will come back here, we'll come back again here if we all have life. If not in 4 years, in 8 years, to be talking about changing government again.
Prof, an extension to his argument. You see, what's the name? Dialogue, participatory, developmental process require honesty. You see, if you are a government and you are facing challenges, don't be in a state of denial. Be honest with the Ghanaian population. This is what we promise. This is the state of affairs. It may be difficult, or it may take time, or we need to adopt this approach. We've seen governments in this country who come, and when people are even telling them what they are going to, they think you are lying. Everything is fine. You are anti-what? You are opposition. They will find names for you. Sometimes they won't even allow you to face that, to the extent that people even don't want to talk about what they are going to do because of victimization. So honestly, we are human beings, and we have voted for you, and we believe that what you have preached you do is what has lured us into voting for you. Look, if you have problems addressing or achieving the objectives within specific timelines, be honest with Ghanaians. This is it. And we've seen that in the development world. Transparency in their government. Look, this is what is happening, so we are going to do A, B, C. We take these austerity measures, we'll do this, we can meet our deadlines, and people will bear with them. But here, they will deny it. The people expose it. This is what I'm going to. They say it's not true. But you are not going to what I'm going to do. So I think we have to reintroduce sincerity in our politics and be very transparent and be very open with challenges. And you see that Ghanaians will support you.
What you said, Prof, was the point I wanted to make. If John Dramani Mahama does not fix all of Ghana's economic problems, and I know any person with reasonable expectation in this country knows that he will not fix all of our problems. But if he's honest with the people, if he's truthful, if it's not politics as usual or business as usual, if he's not saying, oh, these are our problems collectively, then his appointees are riding along in our V8, misbehaving all over the place, wasting our resources, and doing the very things that people abhor. He will get support. There are things that people hate in this republic, and they have stated it consistently. And not just people merely because they run around, they purport to wear military uniforms like those who are claiming that they are taking whatever position they are taking now. Young men who have not done anything useful beyond campaigning, all of a sudden become rich people overnight merely because a party is in power. They get to own all of the houses, all the big places. People who were your classmates